Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here today. Some laugh when they hear me say that because they think I should be wearing a Kevlar vest and carrying a gun. I got frisked by a couple of guys in the back there to see, but that doesn't worry me at all. I really am happy to be here today to speak about subjects that are understandably on everybody's mind, including mine. And that being the OPP's role in delivering municipal policing, fiscal accountability, quality of service, the OPP billing model review, a few eyebrows just raised, the rising cost of policing, and the future of policing, in my view, given that I'm retiring on March 28th, and I've never been shy for an opinion. I'll share some of my opinions with you here today. I'm very pleased to be joined by my replacement, who will be taking over March 29th. The new commissioner, presently Deputy Commissioner Vince Hawks, is somewhere in the room. Very pleased that Vince is appointed by the government to replace me. And we're also joined by Deputy Commissioner Brad Blair and Provincial Commander Mary Silverthorne, who for all intents and purposes is our CAO. So billing and all the issues around that are important issues in Mary's life. I know that all of us, all of them and all of you are all united in our aim to provide policing excellence to people in this province, delivering services that are both cost efficient and effective. Although it will be a challenge in the time I have to talk about all of these issues, I'll certainly give it my best, whether in my prepared remarks or in the question and answer session. So let's begin with a very quick review of the essentials in terms of the OPP's role in delivering municipal policing services. The model of policing Ontario is governed by legislation, that being the Police Services Act of Ontario. And this provides a basic framework for how we police. In 1995, there were 102 municipal police services in Ontario. There's 35 OPP municipal contracts, and there was 576 municipalities that were policed by the OPP at no direct cost to the municipality. That was then 576. But in 1998, under local services restructuring, the Police Services Act was amended and it transferred the responsibility for policing to municipal governments and then what is deemed to have been an equitable exchange for uploads and education. All municipalities then became responsible for policing along with its funding. And since that time, considerable municipal restructuring and policing restructuring has taken place along with a number of police service amalgamations. So where does that leave us now? As of today, policing responsibilities in Ontario are shared by the OPP, 52 municipal police services, and 9 self-directed First Nations police services. The OPP also administers policing for 20 First Nation communities under the Ontario First Nation Policing Agreement and provides direct policing to another 19 First Nations communities. Our provincial responsibilities cover overall safety and security of the province, including everything from organized crime and major crime investigations to ensuring public order and emergency response to large and very complex events, traffic safety and collisions on provincial highways, waterways, and trails, and the list goes on. This also includes assisting municipal police services on the West, which we do regularly across the province, and it is not something that we have traditionally billed for. That may change at some point. One of the largest deployed services in North America and the second largest in Canada to the RCMP. We have 167 detachments, over 9,000 employees, 6,200 of those employees being uniformed officers and 2,800 civilian employees. So we're about 2 uniformed employees for every 1 civilian. There was a time, not all that long ago, we were 10 uniforms for every 1 civilian. So in terms of civilianization and trying to have the right people doing the right thing for the right money, we have made a lot of changes over the years. Our mandate is very broad and it's very unique in this province because we provide both municipal and provincial policing services. And this is tied to how we deliver services in Ontario to 324 municipalities and how we recover the cost of those services. Because as I said, funding is a municipal responsibility under the Police Services Act. As a standard, the OPP works with what we call an integrated model of policing. Personnel and resources are employed to meet both municipal and provincial needs. Under integration, we may provide frontline services, like under the Police Services Act, crime prevention, law enforcement, criminal and traffic investigation, and victims assistance, to several municipalities, plus other territories that are considered provincial, like unorganized territories or provincial parks and King's Highways. And we'll do that all at one detachment. Under this model, activities undertaken by detachment personnel are tracked, and municipalities share only the part of the policing costs that applies to their municipality. So the activities are specifically delivered to that municipality is what they pay for, as well as part of the detachment building and the infrastructure costs. Policing under the integrated model is one of the reasons the OPP can supply very cost-effective, professional, and accountable policing services. Integration also means the municipalities benefit by sharing in the areas of recruitment, training, staffing, administration, supervision, equipment, vehicles, facilities, and above all, the sharing of constables. And this is what we deem to be our economy of scale. And as I say all the time publicly, we're no better than any other police service in this province. I don't ever say that we are. But we do offer economy of scale because we're so large. We have flexibility in terms of how we deliver the service to ensure municipalities are properly policed. And it's a very, very effective delivery model. We operate in a number of rural and isolated parts of this province, providing both provincial and municipal law enforcement to those areas. And meeting this broad mandate over such an enormous landscape, 1 million square kilometers, requires a very high level of operational readiness and significant resources. If we need a tactical team somewhere in this province, we just don't bring them from 2 blocks away. We don't have that luxury as some municipal police services do. Good for them. So we have to be ready to go and have the ability to move people and move them fast to get them in areas, whether it be a tornado in Goderich, an ice storm in eastern Ontario, or whatever it may be. However, operating costs for the OPP for municipal policing are actually comparatively low. We operate within a very streamlined policing model, and our efforts to become more efficient and reduce overtime have been reflected in our recent municipal cost recovery. Half of our municipalities paid less than $300 per household in 2012. Now, in common with all Ontario Police Services, the OPP is concerned about controlling expenditures. We're constantly looking for ways to reduce operating costs while being more cost-effective on an ongoing basis, but there's no denying that in general, policing is an expensive business. And as a result, there's a very important debate underway about the cost of policing in this province and sustainability in the future. And I'd suggest this is bigger than an Ontario problem. I know colleagues from across Canada and the United States, and everybody's dealing with the same issues. It's not just isolated to the province of Ontario. Part of that overall debate and discussion is about how the OPP delivers services to municipality and our current billing model, which is currently under review. Now, I should clarify that this review is about how the OPP bills for the policing services we deliver to municipalities. How we bill. Nothing more, nothing less. There are separate things happening in terms of what it is we actually deliver and how we do that. What a changed billing model is intended to do is to respond to what many municipal leaders have told us for many years, delegations are in this very building, and told the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services for several years that the current OPP billing model is too complicated and difficult to understand. And frankly, I've been around it for many years and I still don't understand it myself. So there's a lot of validity in the concerns that have been raised. And then the Auditor General of Ontario also recommended that we not only address the complexities of billing, but we should reduce the wide variance in cost recovery between communities who are paying nothing or very little to those that are paying a very high amount for police services per household. These concerns are very legitimate, and that's why Minister Mayor and I have publicly committed to review and change the billing process, updating our methodology. The larger scale questions about policing models and future policing are the work of the ministry-led Future Policing Advisory Committee, FPAC. And also, I'd suggest, is work that faces us all as municipal and as police leaders. It involves all of us, because the challenge is not just about the cost of policing or the future policing. It's actually about our collective approach safety and well-being, policing being a huge part of that bigger picture. Proactive policing, community-based crime prevention, and mitigating risk through community partnerships will all be key features as we chart our way forward in the months and years ahead. Safe communities or prosperous communities. Companies don't want to invest in crime-ridden communities. Look at Camden, New Jersey, and some of those other places in the States where they laid off half their police department and the murder rate went through the roof, and crime went through the roof. It looks like a war occurred there. There's holes in brick buildings. People just taking over empty buildings. It's unbelievable. Do companies want to invest in communities like that? Do people want to move their families, raise their children, go to schools and work in communities like that? I can't imagine that they do. Now, it's tough to measure the impact of proactive and high visibility patrols or predictive policing, or through intelligence gathering and analysis, we ensure we have the right people, the right resources, the right places, and the right times to make a significant difference in terms of preventing crime and victimization, as well as preventing needless injuries and deaths on roadways and waterways and trails. It's also important to note that conducting investigations of all kinds is much more complex, much more resource intensive, time consuming, and more expensive than it once was. Yes, crime rates have fallen in some categories, so people automatically, and it's not a criticism, think, well, why do we need police? Crime is down. How did crime get to be down? Did it just happen through osmosis? Is it because of prevention programs, because of the good work police and community groups and others are doing? Do we stop doing that and just kind of cross our fingers and hope for the best? I think that the drop in crime rates in many categories is largely a sign that crime prevention and crime abatement methods are working. It's not an indication that we can start reducing resources, and at least not will have a negative impact on public safety, victimization, and prosperity. Violent crime, youth crime, drug trafficking, search and rescue for missing children and people with Alzheimer's and other issues, child luring, internet crime, police involvement in natural death investigations as people are dying at home more often than they're dying in nursing homes or hospitals. We have to respond to every single one of those. The numbers are through the roof compared to what they once were. Incidents that involve mental health issues, organized crime in communities, selling drugs, and other fraudulent schemes and many other forms of crime. Threats of terrorism are all on the rise in many communities, and they're costly to investigate. Who would have thought that internet crime, cybercrime, and the CSI world that we see on television would drive policing costs to where they are today? When I worked on homicide investigations years ago, 4 or 6 investigators was a large team on homicide. Most of the time we had 2. Sometimes it was me and another officer, that was it. Anything else was a luxury. However, in the case of the Woodstock investigation, I'm sure there's delegates here from that lovely part of Ontario, but into the tragic and horrific death of a beautiful little girl named Tori Stafford, over 700 officers worked on that case. Woodstock Police, from other municipalities, and from the OPP. 700. That comes at a cost, but it's still one murder. So crime may be down in some categories, not in violent crime. In some categories it is, but one murder, 700 people versus 4 years ago. The cost of the OPP alone in that case, not Woodstock Police or the municipalities, was over $20 million before that trial was finished. In the 1980s, in that same community, I worked on a case where one person killed 4 people on the weekend. And at max, we had 40 people involved. And we had 4 people slaughtered. There's a huge cost to that change because of court cases and the need for scientific evidence has grown so much, and the complexities of getting into computers to find files and looking in cell phones for pictures and evidence has become a way different world than when Joe Friday and his partner years ago on Dragnet said, just the facts, man. You know, the world has totally changed. Policing is a very complex and expensive business. We need to do all we can to keep costs down. We owe that to the taxpayers that we collectively serve. Please know that the police chiefs in this province and their personnel are all working together to try and do just that. We all talk, we all share ideas, and we're trying to help each other through some very difficult times. Now, in terms of costs, there's some encouraging news to share. The application of the OPP's cost recovery formula, which covers things like gas, uniforms, computers, and support staff, and communication officers. You know that if the price of gas goes up 1 cent in Ontario, cost the OPP $250,000. So if you think back to when we were budgeted for, say, 50 cents a liter, and the gas went through the roof, that money's got to come from somewhere. And it just doesn't fall out of trees. So somehow or another, we have to try and recoup that through our municipal policing, and of course, on the provincial side, the government of Ontario pays for that piece. But we've reduced all of those cost recovery items, a total of 1% of the billing for direct operating expenses between 2010 and 2013. When you look at the size of the organization, the amount of money that comes in from the municipal policing locations, that was a considerable savings, and we're continuing to work on that. That's the way it works. Think about that, $340 a year on average. Some are $1,000, I get it. But $340 on average is way lower, about half of what most municipal police departments in the province are paying per household, on average. Now, regardless of salary increases, this will remain the cost in 2014. While the price per household cost of policing can vary widely under the current billing model, our low per household cost average tells us that overall, we're doing a good job of being cost effective and efficient. That's not good enough. We need to continue to be good or better than we have been, because we have to keep our costs down. Not me trying to grab turf. I can't say that often enough, but it's a fact. And we need to constantly communicate that to the mayors and councils of the municipalities that we police as they wrestle with these difficult policing cost issues on behalf of their constituents. As Commissioner, I'm always mindful of keeping the bigger picture in mind, so please let me share the bigger picture with you. According to OPP and Ministry of Finance data, the total expenditure for municipal and provincial policing in Ontario for 2012 is about $4.3 billion. You can see the figure on the bottom far left of the slide. Just above it, what you see is the OPP's expenditures on its policing or provincial responsibilities, which total $628 million. And I only show that figure for context because today we're talking about municipal policing costs. The overall total expenditures for 2012 for municipal policing in Ontario by the OPP, in total, were $3.7 billion. OPP municipal. Ontario's 52 municipal police services account for 90% of that $3.7 billion. So the OPP and the 324 municipalities that we police, we account for 10% of the cost for municipal policing in Ontario. And we're almost a third of the size of all police services in Ontario. If we take the municipal police services piece of the pie away, we're left with OPP cost recovered from municipalities, which is only 10% of the billions of dollars spent in Ontario on municipal policing. And these percentages clearly illustrate, in my view, where we need to take action. It's long past time for anyone to constantly identify the OPP as a villain in the story. I know I'm defensive, but I truly believe what I'm saying. I'm not up for election. I'm not looking to take over the world. I'm just calling it as I see it. But to portray us as the villain in all this is not right in my view. I think we all need to take responsibility and look for solutions across the board, because there's another whole 90% of policing costs out there that we have no impact on. Finger pointing accomplishes nothing in this exercise. So all of us need to get on with the task at hand. There's a ton of power in this room, people power, and a lot of will, or you wouldn't be here today. And there's a need for collective energy, goodwill, and commitment. The rewards of collaboration are many. Increase effectiveness because everyone is invested and everyone is represented. But there are also significant challenges where individual agendas can overshadow the collective agenda. If we're truly going to have transformational change to address the economics of policing in this province, a holistic approach is required, everyone taking a leadership role. Where does the leadership come from? We all know there are great expectations in provincial government. My question is, what role should we all be playing to serve the greater good? What role should municipal stakeholders play? What options should they provide? I strongly believe in the need to examine the current model of policing, as I said, to support effective, efficient, sustainable police service delivery in Ontario. And I believe in this as part of the bigger whole, not only investing in law enforcement, but also proactive policing as well as crime prevention, ensuring community safety and well-being, community mobilization model in Ontario, and all the prevention programs that exist, where agencies and government services and volunteer organizations do their best to build healthier lifestyles in communities, to keep kids away from disruptive lifestyles and then therefore crime and tragedy, to ensure people are looked after and get off the streets so they're not living under a subway grate and committing crime trying to eat. There's a lot of social issues that need to be worked on as part of that overall model of us all working together. It's not just a policing issue. Prevention programs are key, but they require resources and they come with a cost. And that's often difficult to measure in terms of metrics. But if you just think about this, if you're out to do a break and enter in a community, and every time you turn around you see a marked car drive by, are you going to commit a break and enter in that community tonight? If you know there's no police and you haven't seen a car for 3 years, are you more likely to commit the break and enter there? It's simple math. Now that doesn't negate the fact we have to do things efficiently, effectively, and keep our costs down. But it's not a very complex issue when you look at it from that perspective. If we're not going into seniors' homes or in seniors' residences and helping seniors avoid being defrauded of all their life savings, we're failing those seniors. And that's prevention. So when they don't get defrauded, there's no crime stat. That means crime went down and we don't need fraud investigators anymore. If we get kids to stay away from drugs and not have them on the streets at night wandering around breaking windows or knocking mailboxes over, we save crimes. We save kids from ruining their lives. But there's no criminal stat attached to that. There's actually a reduction. When we have lock and lose programs, where we convince people you have to lock your cars or people steal stuff, you have to keep your houses locked, and crimes go down, there's less break-in enters. Does that mean we don't need any police officers anymore? Does that mean we can stop doing the prevention programs that we invest heavily in? The bottom line is we want people to not be victimized. There's a huge saving in not responding to those calls. That there's a huge saving to society when women are not abused in their homes because of prevention programs or aren't afraid to call into the right place and time for help. And by having our officers in the right place at the right time through proper analysis to prevent crime, that is the way to go. But it requires much more than the police. It requires communities to really be gelled with all agencies, government, provincial, federal, municipal, and volunteer groups and other organizations. The conference theme here this year is bang on. Our collective time to lead. It really is our time to lead. Nobody ever said that leadership would be easy. Whether elected or appointed, leadership is not easy. If it was, everybody would want to do it. And they're not clamoring to take your jobs in many cases because you have difficult jobs. The citizens of Ontario deserve no less than effective leadership in policing and in municipalities. We owe it to the people of Ontario to work together in all our municipalities to provide them with just that, proper leadership. Thank you very much.